Welcome to this Microsoft Teams meeting entitled Guiding Hand, a presentation by Group 4.
Hello, my name is Pam Hickman. I'm 73 years old and I'd like to tell you about my home. My husband and I of 51 years, Ron and I, moved to our current home about 7 years ago. We anticipated that as we age, certain things might be more difficult and our health and physical capabilities might decline. We had been living in a large log home that we designed ourselves. It was on 40 acres of land. It was becoming apparent that we wouldn't be able to keep up with it as we got older. Our home now is a single-story ranch home, and we've poured a lot of love into it to make it ours. Our home was carefully selected to be a haven where we could age in place. And it is. Our home is a restful place. It's like a sanctuary for me, really. I enjoy being at home and living in a very small town. For this project, my daughter came to my home and interviewed me about the aging in process. It was important that she understood how much my home and community mean to me. I have every intention of remaining in my home as long as possible. And if I can be honest, it's where I plan to die.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Mom. Similar to my mom's narrative, many older adults prefer to age in place. They want to be at home, their own home, as they age. Pam's perspective frames our group's challenge. We were tasked with improving the experience of seniors age 65 plus who desire to age in place. These type of challenges are often called wicked problems because they feel unsolvable. To best address this wicked problem, we turn to the design thinking process. One of the design thinking mindsets is to focus on human values. That is, to have empathy for the customers and their feedback as being fundamental to good design. Our team felt it best to share our experience of this challenge with no gimmicks, no sales tricks, or masking of our own failures. In this presentation, we will share our story of how we use the design thinking process to connect with our loved ones, to hear their stories, and collaborate with them to develop an assistive device. The design thinking process uses an infinity shape to provide a framework for the 4 modes. Sid will reflect on the first mode, Discover, where our team gained a deep empathic understanding of the 65 plus population. In the Define mode, Al will share how our team honed our understanding into a crisp problem definition. As we moved into the Create mode, Dan will expound on how our team began ideating a wide range of possible solutions and prototyping. In the Evaluate mode, Kylan will explain how we tested our device and obtained important feedback. As each group member shares, they will also disclose what we expected to find at each stage, what surprised us, corrections that were made, what worked and what didn't, and what we would do differently.
Thank you, Tracy. Getting multiple perspectives about aging in place is important. I want to take a moment to mention my mother, whom I interviewed. She was the youngest of our interviewees and is still getting her feet wet dealing with retirement. Her concerns revolve around assisting my father, who had a brain aneurysm 2 years ago, and maintaining their medication compliance. Tracking both their medications can be stressful. She finds that often they miss doses at various times of the day. From a study done by the National Institute of Health, only about 50% of the general population adhere to their medications. This number can be even lower in older populations. I did not expect that number to be so low until talking with my mom and hearing about it firsthand. Some could think if her and my dad lived in an assisted living facility, they would have an easier time staying compliant. In some cases, this could be true, but like others we interviewed, she is not ready to give up her full independence. Research by the AARP Public Policy Institute and the National Conference of State Legislatures suggests that almost 95% of people over 65 want to live in their home and community for as long as possible, and 80% believe that they will stay in their homes until they die. Investigating this type of research is a part of the Discover process in design thinking. It can help give you an idea of what our seniors could be faced with now or in the coming years. But to grasp the main picture, you must dive in and ask questions. Discovering more about your topic or objective is one of the first steps of the design thinking process. To gain the knowledge we sought, we created a guide to interview individuals who may be addressing the problems we wish to learn more about. We could assume that we know the answers, but where would that get us? If you are not currently living through the situation in question, your insight might be misguided. Stepping out into the field for that personal touch really helped us home in on things we didn't fully understand. The best way to learn is to ask questions. Iterating our process as a team and creating guiding questions that could aid our interviews helped us to dig deeper. We found that setting an inviting tone worked best. Giving our loved ones time to think by pausing in between each question helped express our desire to hear more than just yes or no answers. Rushing them to a conclusion could have cost us valuable stories with great insight into their lives. In many instances, as they grew more comfortable, we could see and hear it through physical cues such as laughing, smiling, and positive body language. Even while laughing, my mother's insights gave me plenty to share with our team. I was surprised by all I learned about her during the interview, but intrigued about how it changed my initial ideas. With our new perspectives and information, we were ready to share as a group in planning our next steps through design thinking. Next, I would like to pass it off to Al, who will continue to explain how we adjusted our mindsets and started building our foundations for our project.
Hey, thanks, Sid. And I appreciate you sharing about your mother. Well, like Sid said, we're ready to go out and use our interview guide on our respondents, our loved ones, that is. As we passed into the defined stage of the design thinking process, we almost felt like we went right back to the discover stage. And many of the expectations for the interviews were a bit wrong or slightly surprising. For example, we only added one question about medications, but it turned out that that was a big area of concern for all of our respondents. We'll reflect a bit on that later, but our composite character profile of our loved ones had many similar themes that reflected some of the following. Our profile composite was very confident and for the most part hopeful, much of that due to strong religious beliefs and being inspired to be around for their large families. They were, however, not confident with technology that complicates their life and added to their independent issues we found. They wanted to stay in their homes that they were clearly emotionally attached to, but did admit that it could be a bit solitary and challenging when needing to complete regular errands like picking up medication or even getting a vehicle repair. Those were the things that our profile compounded, and we were openly heard, but afterwards we dove a little deeper to reflect on just what we heard through our empathy maps. There were many pains like the fear of dragging down others in their life because of the extra needs, and there were gains like confidence and peace amongst most of them that was not always said. Our group was able to piece these two extremes together and have a much in-depth synthesizing session. Having said that, now we could get together and brainstorm or Mad Lib some POVs to set us up for the next stage. As you can see from our final POV, after much iteration, we felt that we needed to work on a strategy revolving around increasing healthcare and technology. Now, on a personal note, before I turn it over to Dan, this stage was painstaking for me. While I was trying to define a problem and swayed naturally in my head for solutions, I watched my 92-year-old grandmother have 4 small episodes of Alzheimer's. She was sharp as a button during the rest of the time, but 4 times I watched her deep dive into the past or repeat a story as if I had not heard it just a few minutes earlier. That was a real aha moment for me because 1, I'd not been around to see this before, and 2, I was trying to figure out a solution to a problem that my grandmother might not even realize she is experiencing soon. But I am blessed to have gotten to see a rare look into her world. Now I'll actually turn it over to Dan, who will explain a little bit more about the create stage.
Thanks, Al. By the end of the define stage, we had our final POV, as well as a good understanding of our overarching goals and constraints, as you can see here. To continue with our process, we began the create stage by generating how might we statements, designed to help frame the problem in a way that is conducive to identifying potential solutions. This slide shows some of our 53 how might we statements that we initially produced. However, we eventually narrowed it down to one, with our final how might we statement being, how might we design a product for the elderly that allows us to reach them in their homes and that improves their quality of life while also being simple enough for them to use and accounts for age-related difficulties such as vision or hearing loss. We use this how might we as a jumping off point to start the brainstorming process, searching for a solution to this how might we. At the end of our brainstorming session, we had 57 ideas, ranging from hosting a festival for the elderly to advertising on TV. We ended up utilizing the post-it method to help us focus our ideas and narrow them down. And the output of this was one simple idea, an idea for a device that was a one-stop shop for education and technological assistance. And most importantly, gives peace of mind and helps enable aging in place, a device that we named Guiding Hand. Using a combination of GPS and Bluetooth technology, Guiding Hand is able to be configured to a user's living space, providing voice prompts for how to use nearby technology and appliances, such as helping turn on an iPad or recognizing that the user is near a stove and providing an easy recipe. Additionally, using modern health monitoring technology, it has the ability to notify a caregiver in the case of an emergency, to record medication and food logs, and to have those logs accessible to caregivers or family members. This enables peace of mind, not only for the user, but for their loved ones as well. This stage was, in my opinion, the most exciting, as well as the most developmental. While we were able to all easily agree on our final POV, we had 57 different potential solutions as a result of our brainstorm. The post-it method easily helped us narrow it down to 5 ideas, but it took an immense amount of teamwork and collaboration to consolidate down to our final prototype idea. Overall, the create stage went very well, with everyone's unique experiences and perspectives aiding not only in the creation of the product, but with the creation of our group's unique design methodology. Now I'm going to turn it over to Kylan to discuss the evaluate portion of our process.
Thanks, Dan. Personally, I found the evaluate phase to be the most interesting, hearing what our potential users think of our solution and learning if our vision aligns with their experience. We showed the images that Dan previously shared to our potential users and received a wide variety of feedback. Some responses were highly positive, others less so. We refrained from over-explaining or defending the prototype and just listened to the feedback. We learned that our prototype was confusing. Our potential users focused on the screen as a primary mode of operating the device and were concerned about size and font. This focus on the visual capabilities surprised us, as we had focused on audio capabilities for input and output and considered the small screen on the device as a secondary feature. Another surprise was that the medication log did not receive as much attention from our potential users as might have been expected. In the interview process, some of our seniors indicated that they were often concerned about missing a dose of medication or not remembering to give medication to their spouse. This also warrants further exploration in future iterations of the process. Is the log difficult to use? What would make it more useful or valuable to the user? Some respondents found different features to be more or less important or relevant to their needs. This would be interesting to expand in future iterations of the define stage of the process. Some questions and ideas that our potential users generated that we hadn't considered included asking if the device was waterproof. Many asked if the voice could be the voice of a loved one instead of an AI-generated voice. Several asked if the device could be used in conjunction with their Bluetooth hearing aids. And finally, another frequent request was, could the device be integrated to a TV or a tablet so that they could see it? As a group that we agreed it would be helpful to use the Wizard of Oz prototype method As a group, we agreed it would be helpful to use the Wizard of Oz prototype to see if they would respond to the device without a screen. This might allow us to test the user's interest in different types of functionality if we reduce concern over screen or fonts. Other iterations would include taking the discovery and design segments to a wider audience. The goal here would be to understand which challenges are broadly felt and which are niche to a demographic. This would enable the second prototype to focus on the most immediate needs of the group. Research with specialists to better understand the viability of device setup on a TV monitor or mobile tablet would be required. Additional research with both appropriate technology experts as well as medical providers to understand requirements for reporting so that food logs, medicine logs, and other logs could be easily shared during health visits. It would also be helpful to understand if these logs offer value to the medical provider in understanding if medications or changes in diet are producing desired results for the patient. Understanding if the device can be designed to work with hearing aids would also require research with area specialists. Pricing would be another area to start researching. Once we understand the technology and what are the materials required and the time required to achieve the first iteration of a sellable product. Most products like this one are expected to include upgrades to the technology as well as new releases of the device, so add-ons and upgrades are to be expected. Key partners might include partners for development as well as business partners for creation and understanding key customer channels. For example, are there special interest groups that would help subsidize the pricing? If the product is proven to provide health benefits, under what circumstances would it be eligible for purchase with insurance or Medicare? How might we reach the audience who will best benefit from the guiding hand device? Key activities and propositions initially would be addressed in reiterations of the design process. To address cost, structure, and revenue streams, Group 4 would defer until further iterations, having learned more about feasibility and material requirements.
We now invite you to reflect. Which elements of the presentation resonated with you? Which elements could be improved? What is not clear in the presentation? What new ideas does this presentation inspire? We welcome and appreciate any feedback given. Thank you for your time and your attention. We hope you enjoyed our presentation.